Hi everyone. By the way, we have been to this area before. About a couple of months ago, I did a series of tours of the so-called Art Nouveau Avenue of St. Petersburg, Kamenostrovsky Avenue. I know this name is not so easy to say. Well, but you may remember this Art Nouveau Avenue again. Art Nouveau everywhere we go, it's Art Nouveau. I love it so much. And this is the um, early 20th century postcard. I guess it's just a colorized mm, photograph. And the building we're going to visit is to the right, the one with the tower. Next to the tower, you can see a very big window, right? Like of three parts window. That's the studio because we're going to visit not just the apartment, but the studio of the artist who also happened to be the owner of the entire house. And that is the house, actually the house we are going to visit. It's the same house. You may remember the square. The modern name of this square is the Austrian Square. This is the name given to the square after the 1992, basically after the um, perestroika. And there's actually no real connection with the name, but let's say it was just kind of to show the support and the connection and the new ties that were established between Russia then and Austria. And plus, as I already told you, there's so much Art Nouveau in this on this avenue, and Vienna has so much Art Nouveau itself. So I guess kind of this link, architectural link, a vibe. I think this is the reason, well, well, why this particular name for this avenue, for this square was chosen. Look at this facade. So this is just another uh, tenant house, income house. All of this used to be a private property, and everywhere people just used to rent and live. That's just how it was. And the apartment we're going to visit tonight was closed for 100 for more than 100 years. It was just somebody's private apartment until it was put out for sale on the real estate auction. And when it was put up for sale, it became available for visits because it was put up for sale. People wanted to see what they were considering buying and things like that. So they opened it up. The initial price was 80 million rubles. That's $1,100,000 US dollars, around that. And in 1 month exactly, the apartment was sold exactly at $1,100,000. But it's going to cost them probably several more thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to um, revamp it, to make it a livable space, because you'll see, you'll see. We have some old photographs as well of this house. So the entire house, as I said, belonged to this artist. Lipgart is his name. So he was Baron Ernst Friedrich von Lipgart. And he was from an old German family, but it was like German Estonian. And he was born in, he was born in Estonia in the family of a very successful and renowned um, art critic and art historian, who also happened to be a consultant for the family of the Romanovs. That's him already in his, I would say, more mature years. So, and Lipgart, I think it shows his portraits. They kind of give aristocracy, like you can. I think you can just see it. And obviously, Estonia back then was part of the Russian Empire, so he considered himself, by the way, Russian, and because his family, his father had connections with the kind of with the Romanovs, so eventually which I will be talking about later on. Liphart became the court artist to Nicholas II and to the Romanovs, not just to Nicholas, but all the Romanovs and also all the officials who served in the Romanovs court. Well, many of the portraits at that time would be made by Liphart. This portrait of Nicholas II in the Winter Palace, I have shown you so many times. So then, if you think you've never heard of Ernst Liphart, that's not exactly right because you have seen already so many of the portraits, and you will see more of them today. So, but you just need to know that were made by him. Let's just have a little look around the Austrian Square because it's a beautiful square, and yes, it is. You can say that it's an eclectic square, and there is Art Nouveau, but there are actually buildings of several periods at least. But we are interested in this one. Many of the buildings in this square and also the entire avenue were built by William Schaub or Vasily Schaub, who was an architect of the German descent, but he also considered himself basically Russian. There were a lot of Germans in St. Petersburg, starting from the very beginning, that is early 1700s. And Vasily Schaub was one of the renowned masters of Art Nouveau and eclectic styles. And I would say that he built maybe 30% of the buildings on this Art Nouveau Avenue. I say Art Nouveau Avenue. It's not the official name. I'm just saying it because the official name, Kamenostrovsky, might be a little bit challenging for you to remember. You don't need to do that. So I'm kind of just keeping it simple for you. So Schaub is, he was very expensive, but Ernst Liebhardt had the funds. So when he purchased this plot of land, he originally just built himself a little two-story building, which was his studio, also his apartment, but then little by little, well, he had enough funds. Obviously, he also took a loan because everyone, well, actually, nobody would just simply be spending their own money, their own funds to build a tenant house. They will take a loan from a bank and then we will be just paying it off for 10, 20 years. This is how it was. And the same also Liebherr did, just like everyone else. There's also someone else, by the way, selling an apartment in this building. Big deal. Okay, good for them. What can I say? So, by the way, Maria, you might find it interesting. So, this Radi Manor, which, as far as I understand, was damaged during the Second World War time in Estonia, now part of it survived and it belongs to a university. And also, there's I believe, a museum. So, I have never been there, never been to Estonia at all, unfortunately, which should be fixed definitely soon. So, but that's actually where he's from. That's like his family estate. And there is still a lot of his family collection because his father was an art collector as well. He amassed a great collection, by the way, of old masters and Italian art. Well, part of his collection actually is stored in Estonia, which is amazing. And it is exhibited, by the way. So as I said, his father was their arts. Actually, he was like art advisor and agent even for Grand Duchess Maria Nikolaevna, who was the daughter of Emperor Nicholas I. And that's exactly how it wasn't really that difficult for Liphart, but the son of his father, right, to, well, kind of set his foot, in this, um, or maybe or actually maybe his father put his foot in the door for Ernst. But anyway, before this happened, Ernst went to Italy to study. He studied Italian art, and he eventually became one of the biggest specialists in Italian and Spanish art in the Russian Empire. And he was recognized also in the museums in Europe, and I will explain why, because this is not just words, it's not just words, trust me on that. So, but after his studies and after gaining some good reputation, eventually he came to Russia. He came to St. Petersburg to present his collections of paintings on like different biblical plots. to Alexander III. And Alexander III liked his paintings, and Alexander III offered him the position of the court artist of the Romanovs, of their court, right? Not like a family artist, but of the entire court. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of work. And Liebhardt took that offer, like, of course, and stayed in Russia. And he never left. Never left. Little by little, he eventually also would be given a position at the Society of the Encouragement of Arts. That's one of the earliest art organizations built. Well, it was opened in the 19th century, and it was the society that helped those artists who could not get enrolled into the Academy of Fine Arts for different reasons. Also, in this society, some Jewish artists started, which was a big deal for a long time. Jews could not really, well, there was, I would say, a lot less opportunities for Jewish students, for Jewish artists to to enroll into the Academy of Fine Arts. So it was quite prestigious to be teaching in this, for this society. And Liebhardt was given a position there, and he continued his studies. He continued his teaching career up until the end of the empire, basically. And the society, as it says here, existed up until 1929. So that's a big deal. This is the photograph where the house was, where the office of the Imperial Society was located, and it was supported by different aristocratic families, by different societies, and a lot of artists started their career actually, and also their, let's say, path in art from here. Some eventually, after studying in the society, they were able to take the exams and pass the exams, into the academy. So it was also, I think, was a good school just in general. And we are in the lobby. I mean, being in the lobby for me is already exciting because I've always wanted to see this building. I wanted to visit it because it's just there in the square. But I didn't know anyone. I don't know anyone living in this building, so it's not, it wasn't that easy to access it. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. So it just was never happened. But the lobby looks impressive, and I would say it's really not in a bad condition. It's quite clean, it's quite neat, and a lot of original elements are still there. Most likely, there used to be something, in these frames. There must have been, but obviously, you don't expect that these olive green and pistachio green walls have been like this for 100 years. Obviously not. The house was built in early 1900s, and obviously it was after the revolution, the apartments actually all became the communal ones, and you just can't expect the building to remain like this for 100 years, knowing what this country was through, right, in the 20th century. So obviously not. But the ironwork is always original in most cases, and also it's different, from the back. So the internal side is always, I would say, more disappointing, or just really strikingly different, because this is what St. Petersburg, this is what it was all about. So it's just the tenant house had to have a beautiful facade to make you fall in love with the building, to kind of set the price, but nobody would really be bothering this much to decorate the inner side. However, Well, actually, it's not really looking that bad, to be honest. But yeah, anyway. So, and we need to go to the upper level. We need to go to the very last floor. And today we are going to see the studio, which technically occupies two floors. And we are also going to find ourselves in the tower. And yes, the house has the original matlack tile, which looks very new, right? Like because the matlack tile, we know this that the pigment that they used, it wouldn't be just glazing on the top of the tile, but the pigment would go through the entire tile, or maybe just through like 70 or 80% of the entire tile. So that's why the colors, they never wear off, they never tear off. It's Yeah, it's just there. So it looks very new because of that. So that's why Metlach tiles were always the best solution. And yeah, this is the original, ironwork, and this is the original door. The I guess the exhibition for which the apartment was open. So the apartment was open just because it was put up for sale, but also someone decided to open uh, an exhibition of two contemporary artists, Ekaterina Fedotkina and Ekaterina Krylova. And I like the name. No provocation, only jealousy of the clouds. So we're not going to spend too much time, appreciating the two Ekaterinas, but I already appreciate them for arranging this so St. Petersburgers could visit this apartment. And we are in the studio of Ernest Lipgart. As I said, the studio itself, so this gigantic window that we saw from the outside. And yeah, to me, even though there's no furniture and not so much of the interior that's, has survived, it's still a lot because it's the apartment and it was locked for 100 years and more than 100 years. And now we can visit it. So we just stood there, right? We just stood there and then we're here in the tower. That's for me, it's something absolutely special. It's like one of the sort of, kind of the dreams came true in a way, even though I have not been there in person. But so you see what's going on here. There's usually Liebhardt created a lot of monumental portraits because he was a court artist. He had to create monumental portraits, and he had to have a big studio for it. And he had to have a very big window for the daylight. So hence that's why the studio is that big. Obviously, yeah, the original floors. This is the I would say typical parquet floors for St. Petersburg. In the Soviet time, they were also pretty much the same. I mean, if it was parquet floors, but also because of the siege of Leningrad, a lot of parquet floors were completely destroyed because people had to keep themselves warm. So having a really nicely kept parquet floor is a big deal for St. Petersburg for just this, I would say, very sad reasons. And yes, for me, even just seeing the naked bricks is already a big deal. But you know what two Ekaterinas did? They also attempted to to tie their artworks with Lipgart. So they are appreciating Ernst Lipgart legacy, and that's I think it's his self-portrait. And he had a very a sad end of his life. So he started off, as I said, very successfully, just almost immediately appointed as the court artist of the Romanovs. And then a little later, with his knowledge of Italian and Spanish art and in general European art, he was very quickly offered the position of the curator of the Hermitage collection. And it's exactly thanks to Liebhardt that St. Petersburg Hermitage Museum has this Leonardo, the Benoit Madonna, or Madonna with a child. Um, in the Hermitage, we have two Leonardos. But with regards to the second Leonardo, some European, not really Russian, but European specialists a little bit skeptical. They are not 100% sure that this is the Leonardo. or not solely Leonardo, because we know there are not so many works by Leonardo that were actually painted by him from the beginning to the very last strokes, right? Well, there are some questions with regards to the last Madonna, but with this Madonna, there is no doubt at all. And it was exactly Lippert that was able to actually analyze the provenance, analyze the painting itself, and identify and attribute it to Leonardo da Vinci. And there are also a lot of sketches, a lot of drafts that you can find in the British Museum collection. I think I've even provided here some of them. But the story of also how this painting was found, you actually know very well. So the name of this painting is the Benoit Madonna because its provenance, it actually comes from the private collection of the Benoit family. And many of you were with me back in 2022, January 2022, when we visited the apartment of the Benoit family, right? And we saw the room where this painting was hanging just above the mirror for, well, it had been there for about 50 years until it was finally noticed, like, and it caught an eye. And then, Liebherr did the expertise, he ran the expertise, not really having, microscopes and x-rays that we have now. So he did it. And the entire art community, world art community totally agrees. So these are the sketches from the British Museum collection. And so even if you thought you didn't know and never heard of Ernst Liebhardt, it's not exactly 100% true because you were with me in this very apartment and exactly above this very mirror. This work had been hanging for several decades. Yeah. So another interesting connection that we actually witnessing. Another artwork that he was able to attribute was Saint Peter and Paul by El Greco. It was also his expertise that is not even, well, it's not disputed in the world society. I mean, in the art society worldwide. So he remained, by the way, he remained the court artist. So till the end of the Romanovs era, and then he remained the curator of the Hermitage European Art Collection, well, up until the end of the 1920s. That's him in this very studio, sitting just next to this balustrade, just there, painting Nicholas II. And even though, well, there's the very sad thing is that I've been told by a friend of mine that you see the stove there to the right. So I was told that the stove actually survived. Well, at least partially survived, but it's in pieces and it's not exhibited. So it's very sad that we don't see all these artworks. We don't see the decor anymore. But I guess who am I to complain? Or that's also him working on his, another monumental paint. Well, not this is not a monumental, but he actually had really big portraits too. Yeah. Looks like he had a cat. And he had some really nice furniture as well. And he was an art collector himself. He also had a really nice collection. And he also had our collection of Russian artists, by the way, works by Russian artists, and many of them are in the collection of the Russian Museum. Some of the artworks are in the collection of the Hermitage. And this red section, I don't know, I don't know at which point it was painted, but definitely it's not from his time. So this, for example, some of the very first portraits of Nicholas II that was painted by Liebhardt, 1897. So that's Sotheby's, by the way. I'm not sure where it is now exhibited, by the way. I don't think it's in the Hermitage. Or, for example, the coronation ceremony menu by by Liphart, and that's just the menu. That's, I mean, even menus were artworks were well very important for the design. But in fact, so the quartz artist duties were didn't just boil down to simply making portraits of the Romanovs and their children and the relatives and the courtiers, but it's also providing decorations, doing decorations for the events, official ceremonies, diplomatic visits, and all these things, design of menus, postcards, and whatnot. So that was actually a lot of work. But Leipart enjoyed it. And I think it was just, he was a happy man because he turned his hobby and his passion into a good income. Or, for example, this portrait of the Peterhof. It's the right time to be at Peterhof now. Well, Grand Duchess Maria Pavlovna of Russia, this portrait, I think I even have shown you um, on different occasions. That was him. Or the another uncle of Nicholas II, Mikhail Nikolaevich, Grand Duke Mikhail Nikolaevich. This is portrait also by Liphart. So Liphart was the official portrait artist of all the Duma members. So imagine he had a lot of work, and actually the deadlines were really tight because, well, they didn't have printers. They couldn't really printer everything, that they couldn't really done that quickly. So there was still it still mattered. So it still mattered. Of course, later on, close to like in let's say 1910s, later on, there were photographs, but yet the official painting, the official portraits were still in demand. So a lot of things he had to do. So and after the revolution, so he had his job at the Hermitage Museum, and for up until 1929, he was kind of safe. They claim that this was his bedroom, by the way. So we are now already in the tower. No, it's room next to the tower. We will see the tower, and the so the they he was relatively okay, which I guess is only because his work for the Hermitage mattered so much to the museum, and because the Hermitage was become because the collection of the Hermitage was becoming so important, and it was also a big matter for the Bolsheviks. He was able to keep his job, but eventually he was fired. His daughter was arrested and executed by the Bolsheviks in 1929, and he stayed with his wife. And by the way, with his wife, they had, well, when he was in Europe, he met a woman, and he was a Lutheran, but she was Roman Catholic, and his father was absolutely mad at him for it, and he lost big part of his. By the way, Liebhardt lost big part of his inheritance just because of that. That's, yeah, his father was not really happy. That's why I'm not entirely sure whether his father was able to put any foot in the door for him, so he could present his artworks to Nicholas to Alexander III. I don't know really. But anyway, let's look at this very elegant and very narrow winding steps. And we are in the tower already. And the minute we are in the tower, we see something completely different. So we already see the Soviet period, and this let's say this typewriting machine has nothing to do with Liebhardt. So Liebhardt was evicted from his own apartment in 1929, and well, in the end of the 1920s, let's put it like this. And he, together with his wife, not knowing what happened to his daughter, for a long time he had no idea what happened to his daughter. He had to be living just in one room. He used to have the entire house that belonged to him. People paid rent to him. And then he had nothing. He was evicted from his own apartment, from his own house. And he died in drenching poverty, of course. Yeah. So, and immediately another artist moved in. by the way, into this apartment. And obviously, it couldn't be anyone but the artist because it was the studio, by the way. So we are already on the second level and we will be going up to the tower. So this is what it looks like, from that upper level, kind of on this balcony. So the two floors are occupied by just the studio, and now we are going to the tower itself. So the tower also has like two floors. Well, kind of not really floors, but like two levels. And here I believe that these contemporary artists, the two Ekaterinas, they were in charge of everything that we see in this exhibition, and they're using this books from the Second World War times. Uh, and they here, as well as the Soviet period typewriter machine, just because they wanted to also connect it not only to the Lipgart's legacy, but also to the legacy of another artist that that lived in this apartment, and starting from the mid 1930s. So that's a big deal. So the apartment continued to live. I don't really know how much of the interiors, were saved or were lost, but so we know that here used to live Vladimir Sokolov. I don't think that he is really that known, let's say, outside of Russia, but he was quite a successful and prolific artist of the Soviet period. He created a lot of portraits of the Soviet officials. Um, Do we know if he enjoyed it or anything? No idea. Probably he probably did. That's, well, whatever it is. But you know what? I think that this apartment maybe in a way was cursed. I will explain why. So Vladimir Sokolov, it well, let's say his road to success, yeah, I would say wasn't really easy. But eventually he, well, let's say, gained recognition, and obviously an artist with recognition, could afford, well, could was allowed to move into an apartment like this. And he lived in this apartment like with his daughter and his wife. And he was just about to have his personal exhibition on the 22nd of June, 1941. Hold on a second. I have a message from one of the viewers. Let me see. Okay. Okay, I just send the direct link. I'm not sure if she'll be able to join, but anyway, so it's been recorded. So whoever joined us a little after we started, it's not going to be an issue to watch it at your convenience. I'm hoping to share the recording shortly, as soon as I can. So as I said, his first like big soul, exhibition was scheduled for the day when the Second World War was officially declared to the Soviet Union. And the bombing started right away. And his daughter and his wife were killed because they were in the house where the exhibition was supposed to be. So for some reason, they were in that house. And his collection was destroyed as well because of that bombing. So this man lost everything. Then the war started on one day, the first day. And his exhibition, which no longer mattered, right? But anyway, also never really happened. But he remained in the occupied city and he continued his work, and he created a lot of these very uplifting, propaganda, but uplifting artworks. So this one says, for the motherland, for Stalin. Go ahead, the sailors of the Baltic Fleet to to devour the enemy. Well, some that's what it says. Or this one, glory to the Marine Guards and everything. But I'm pretty sure this was quite genuine, and I mean, whatever it, just whatever it took to keep the morale, right, of the people in the occupied city. So yeah, it's part of propaganda, but it's not just that. And after the war, he switched to something less political at all, like completely not political. He created a series of artworks called Peace to the World, and he focused on the diversity of the people living in Russia, Soviet Union, and he created a lot of just, he kept on creating a lot of people's portraits, which had nothing to do with politics at all. And he became a pacifist in general. So this again, so I remind you that we are in the tower now, and the tower is split, like has like two levels. So there are two levels of the studio. You can see the studio, and there are also two extra levels of the tower. So you see, we are now going to see the third level, and the fourth level you cannot really visit it, but you can see it. Let's put it like this. So this is the tower already. Again, as I said, no really decoration, the new windows. So even the frames are not original. I think it's just plastic, but like a really good plastic. But yeah, technically, it's horrible. It has to be. I bet the house is listed, but I don't know, maybe not. No, it should be listed. So I don't really know what's going on here, but the windows are new, and this is the only way one can access the upper level, the fourth level of the apartment, and one could do it only by putting a ladder, but the ladder was on the floor. The ladder was not allowed to be used. This is the photograph taken during the times when Sokolov was living in the apartment. And you see his portraits for the portrait. So he created a lot of portraits of different people. His portrait of the Vietnamese girl was very popular. Also, he created portraits of locals, of people who lived in his neighborhood, and just, a lot of random people. And so he just, I think it was about peace and diversity and something like that. So this is the portrait of the Vietnamese girl that became like very popular. And it looks like it's a photograph, right? So his art completely changed. Well, what happened to his family? Everything, just he lost everything in one day. And yet he didn't lose himself. He didn't lose his mind. I just don't know how he managed to survive. But anyway, this is the view from the window. I'm so jealous of Oleg. Anyway, so this is the view. And you must remember, let me know later on the chat if you remember the avenue, if you remember the Art Nouveau tours. And so this is the upper level. I have no idea if there's anything there. Probably not. Well, but I'm sure that the new owners are going to they will need to invest another couple of hundreds of thousands of dollars to revamp it, or at least not it doesn't really need just brushing up. It needs, really really good renovation. But also, of course, we need to see the courtyard. We only saw it from the windows, which is not enough. So we are definitely going to see what else there is. As I said, well, again, all the the facades the inner facades are always less impressive, but it could be worse. To be honest, it just needs some cleaning. It just needs, some plaster work. But other than that, I think it looks nice anyway. And yeah, this is like the typical way that the houses are built. in St. Petersburg. So we're leaving the courtyard, and you know what? During this white night season, I get especially homesick. And this, Kamenastrovsky Avenue is very close to where Misha used to live, where Emma lives, and this is where we would stay whenever we, visited St. Petersburg. Because again, we lived permanently in the countryside, not really far from there, but still not in the city. And whenever we were in the city, we would be staying literally like 10 minutes walk from this area. And I asked Oleg because he's he's in St. Petersburg now, so he will be filming a lot of the areas actually of this Petrogradsky district, which it's not exactly my stomping ground, but that's exactly where, well, Misha's stomping ground. And so let me just explain what's going on here on the Google Maps. So if you have a look on the top section of the map to the right, you actually see this Kamenostrovsky Avenue. That's the name. And this red dot, it's where we were. This is the Austrian Square. And 30 minutes walk I would we are taking in order for me to show you around my neighborhood. Well, it's not exactly where the house is, but this is another avenue that we are going to explore. So you see another pin, right? Another red pin. That's actually where we will be now. And there is a Bolshoi Prospect, the big prospect that eventually crosses the Kamenostrovsky Avenue. So this avenue has a lot of Art Nouveau, and not only Art Nouveau, and it just has places that I have a lot of personal connections. Myself, and I know I'm being a little bit selfish here because I'm not asking what you want to see. I'm not asking if you want to see this, but I'm just assuming you would be interested because this is the area I've never taken you before. It's not touristy at all. However, it has some stories. It has, um, things to show. It has some beautiful houses as well. So why not? So let's just go ahead and explore it. And the first thing you see once you find yourself there is this stadium from the Soviet period. It's called Yubileyny. It's huge. It looks like a big hockey puck. That's exactly what it looks. It's just completely round and it's big. It was really, really big. Actually, it was the biggest one in the city when it was constructed. And I have some photographs. So this is what this area looked in the 70s. Well, when they finished in the 70s, I'm not sure. They must have started in the 60s. And this area was so desolate, but but well, actually, not really. It looks like this, but just the entire area will be developed, and the houses are just all around. Just looks a little bit like as if it's in the wilderness, but it's actually not. And this is like massive. This is really massive, like really Soviet scale type of. And this is the inauguration. Oh yeah, so the inauguration happened in the 1980s, and they started the construction in early 1970s. Yes, so the inauguration took place in the 80s. A lot of red color. I wonder why. I wonder. Anyway, but just across the street from that Soviet building, we have a cute garden, very small one. We have the Bolshoi Avenue, the big avenue. That's the avenue. And there is a place that I absolutely loved myself, just to go there myself. And Grisha and I spent a lot of time really there, especially when he was just little and in the stroller. He liked to nap in that garden, and you could see this, from this jubilee you could see just from across the road. The area is marked with this little chapel. The chapel was named after Alexander II, the Tsar, the king, the Tsar, the one because he was, mortally wounded, right, on in 1881, and on the spot. Eventually, the Spilbat Cathedral was constructed, so the chapel was built to commemorate him. And I've never actually, I I don't think I've ever been to the chapel. And anyway, I was always with the stroller there, so I don't think I've ever been there. But The chapel is kind of also is a part of the church complex that we have in that area. But I also wanted to share these photos with you. So as you probably remember from my tours, every 100 of years there used to be really massive floods. 1724, 1824, 1924, and this is like 1924. This is already the end of the flood, but I will show you another photo. Have a look. Massive flood. So just imagine. Yeah, big deal. Really big deal. And right, so this is like the corner, and then there is this little garden, and the garden is and even the chapel, they're actually part of the territory of this Vladimir Cathedral. And this Vladimir Cathedral is one of the oldest churches in Saint Petersburg. It doesn't look like this because the construction took almost 70 years altogether, but it was, well, actually, no, actually almost 100 of years, because they started in the 1730s, which is shortly after Peter the Great passed away, like 30 years after the establishment of St. Petersburg itself. So this church is one of the oldest for sure. We have some illustrations, that's just the illustration from the early 1800s. The church is already there, but it looks different, right? So, and we also have photographs, taken from different corners. So, let's say in this graphic work, you see the church. It's still the church, but it looks different, right? The domes are smaller. It looks a little bit awkward. Like domes are too small compared to the rest of the building, like some things with the proportion. And I see faces on this bell tower. I see like faces, one funny face and one sad face. I don't know. It's probably something's probably wrong with me. I'm broken, I think. But anyway, but the thing is, because this church was founded by one emperor, and then because of the, let's say, because, well, Elizabeth then passed away, and in 1750, in 1750s, and then Catherine the Great uh got inaugurated, and Catherine the Great just completely hated, whatever Elizabeth liked to, would build. And then, you know, during Catherine's time, they never got to finish it. And then when Catherine passed away, her son also tried to build whatever his mom never wanted him to build. And, because of all these changes in the politics and in just, in the rulers of the country, eventually the church was not finished up until the 1800s, early 1800s. So altogether, let's say the church was finished by early 1800s, and that's why it doesn't look like it's one of the oldest churches, but it is one of the oldest churches. In fact, the first level is original, so these are the original bricks from 1730s, and the rest, the other levels would be, from various periods. We have, some photographs of the interiors as well, and uh, it used to be quite splendid, I would say, really. This is the postcard of the Cathedral of Saint Vladimir. The church looks the same. There was always a little garden there. By the way, the garden was there before. Well, the garden had always been there, but when the chapel was built, the Alexander II chapel, the garden was named after Alexander II too. It's not exactly the garden, it's just like the little park, but it's kind of just, yeah, probably better say little park, which which is okay. And also there was a lovely bakery from the back of the church. There was a lovely bakery, and well, when Grisha would wake up from his nap, well, during the day, we would always go there and buy something. Yes, Misha, you don't know that, but yeah, we would always go and buy some petty pies with apples or something like that. Yeah. and they were like always cheapish and sometimes even warm. And a few more things before we wrap it up, because I don't have any intention to overrun, because we will be overrunning when I do my White Night tour, and we all had already overrun in Tbilisi by like 20 minutes or so. So the only thing that I'm just going to show you is several photographs from my own camera roll that I have. This is my photograph taken during the White Nights. So, and we are hitting the White Nights now. I mean, they're always there, not in full swing yet, but almost, almost. And I took this, I think it was way before even Risha was born. I think it's like 2014 or 2013. I'm not sure. And I took it from the roof of a restaurant. I think so. So it's just the beautiful church, right? And the beautiful sky. And yeah, this is also another photo that I took. This is the nighttime. This is, I think, around 1 a.m. or something around that. And it's approximately, I think it's just the end of June, something, around that time. And that's me. Yeah. So that's just it. And so that's exactly why I thought, okay, well, I definitely need to take it to the Bolshoi Avenue, because there is so much more that I haven't shown you yet. And I will be showing also some photographs from my camera roll, some stories from the shops I would go to, I used to go to, and things like that. So next time, I haven't scheduled this tour yet, but I will be taking you to the Bolshoi Avenue and the source of this Petrograd side, because there is, yeah, a lot to share. I think Misha is jealous that I had never actually brought him those patty pies. Yeah, and Misha said that this is actually his road to school. So this kind of technically not my stomping ground, but Misha's stomping ground store. So definitely he's gonna be contributing, but I still bet he's jealous of me not actually sharing any patty pies with him. Yeah. Anyway, let me open the chat. Especially the apple ones were very good with cinnamon. They were very good. And gingerbreads too were not so bad, especially with mint. Next time I will find some photos. I think I have some photos of that bakery. Let me know if you want me to show you the photographs of the bakery. I think I have them. I think so. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, the chat is open. Let me know if you have any questions. And in the meantime, I'm going to be sharing the links with you as usual. So there's in 30 minutes from now, I'm taking you to the White Night cruise on the Neva River, and I will be sharing a little bit of the new footage. I will in the end. So just in case you think that you have seen it all, show the bakery, okay, Ronaldin. It's nothing really, but yeah, it's lovely. Just a church bakery. What can I say? They don't really bake it there, but they sell them there. So the church has a bakery elsewhere. I'm not sure, but anyway, I will try to find it. I should have. As I've eaten so many pies from this bakery, and I should have some photos for sure. And also, as I said, many tours for the next week are already up, and definitely more going to be scheduled, including this next episode of the Bolshoi Avenue. Uh, but I am going to share with you with what I already have. So, as I said, we will be visiting German colonies not only in the Holy Land, but also in the Caucasus. So, yes, we had some German colonies in Georgia as well. So I'm going to be like putting the two tours together, and we're going to be visiting them next week. And also I absolutely have to take you to Sarana German colony in Tel Aviv, and this is when like I think I will have all the dots connected, and I will feel like, okay, this is complete. I've taken to the German colonies. And yeah, and obviously the second episode for the Tower of David Museum is already up. So yeah, this is basically it. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I'll try to find the photos of the bakery. I will. And again, also, if any one of you missed my live stream from Tbilisi, it's been a lovely live stream. We visited a lovely gift store, got to cuddle a grumpy cat. Well, Oscar has some really good selfies that I'm going to share later on. And then we also just enjoyed, lovely garden, in the cafe. And we saw some Art Nouveau. We visited several lobbies and we read some poetry. Yeah, so yeah, many things. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Thank you for your support. As you know, you can send a PayPal donation. Well, or you could buy me a coffee. And in 25 minutes from now, we're going to sail down the Neva River. We're going to sail under the bridges. They're going to open for us at night, and we're going to see this white night in full swing. And a little new footage also that I will be adding because I always try to add something, to the tours. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you for your interest in my tours. Thank you for your support. I will see you very soon. Bye bye.